There's a lot of stuff going on, bro. Like the stuff with China, Canada, Mexico, the trade war we're having with them. I mean, Ukraine and Russia is still fighting. That war's still happening. Everything's still so inflated. The Epstein things, yeah, they haven't dropped the list yet, dude. Like, what's gonna happen with the economy?
Yeah, I think the best place to start is like whoever's controlling the simulation, they need to figure it out because obviously there's a glitch in it. But if we're still in the game and we're like in the simulation and they're not going to control it, then what we need to focus on is one, this is all happening. We're 6 to 7 weeks out of Trump being inaugurated as a president. There's 4 years of literally the people in power doing whatever the fuck they wanted. I mean, even down to Joe Biden's signature is not real, right? They had the auto pen. And so all of his policies, there's like literal videos of him where he's talking, where people are asking him like, hey, do you remember signing this bill? And he goes, what are you talking about?
Mm.
And so you have to think about 4 years of just chaos going on. But what you have to realize is it all comes down to the votes. And when you look at how voter turnout changed this in 2024, there's a major shift in demographics. So typically you had the Republicans and Democrats both fighting for the 60 to 90 or whatever, for the baby boomer vote, right? And that was key. Like if you won that vote, pretty much you were guaranteed to win an election. Well, what's happened now because of TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, because of the internet, podcasting, because of the new form of media, you now have a change in the demographic of voters. So now the prominent voter is 30 to 60. And then what's even bigger is the voter turnout between 18 to 30. Well, what was the biggest shift in, if you look at those three cohorts, who changed the most between voting Democrat to Republican?
It was the younger
the
generation.
younger generation,
Right.
exactly, the 18 to 30.
Yeah.
Right? And then the 30 to 60. But what's key, what no one talks about is actually 60 plus. Guess who they voted for?
Kamala.
There was a 3% shift towards the Democratic side, which was typically a more Republican vote.
Right.
Now, why did that happen?
I'm assuming his policies just didn't fit what the elderly are looking for or protecting them.
You know,
I would say scare tactic with like Medicare and Medicaid.
yeah. So who owns the most wealth?
The older people.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
60 plus.
Okay.
They hold the wealth. And so when you look at voter turnout and you look at what happened in 2021, 2022, there was a dip in the stock market. But what happened afterwards? 20% gain 2023, 20% gain 2024. So people's retirements exploded, people's stock portfolios exploded, the money market accounts exploded, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you had I believe that if Kamala would have won and you would have continued down a Democratic regime, then the stock market would have continued to inflate. You would have had inflationary policies because there'd be no government cuts.
Right.
Well, who tends to be hurt the most by a recession? Right? Given what we just talked about, who holds the most money?
So it would be the older people, elderly.
Right.
So that's why more of essentially we're looking out for their pocketbook. So they were like, hey, I'm comfortable with corruption or lack
Correct. And then continuing to inflate the stock market, right? Continuing inflation. So who tends to benefit the most if there's a recession?
I'm not too sure.
I mean, I would say the wealthy too, because then they buy in the dip.
Yeah, but they lose, right? Because their portfolio's already on the stock market. So they're going to lose, and then they got to time the dip.
Yeah.
So there's all these stop losses in place where they'll start to sell off their portfolio. And yeah, some of them are going to win, but a lot of them are going to lose.
Okay.
Right? Especially the retirement funds.
So then the younger people would win because obviously if stock market goes down, then rates go down, whether it's credit card, auto, or mortgages, like all of that. So then things become more affordable.
Right. And then they kind of jump and they begin to ride the wave.
And then they ride the wave. So what happens is you create a transfer of wealth.
Right.
The only way that our generation, right, your generation, you're in your mid-20s, we're in our mid-30s, the only way we're going to be able to capitalize is if there's a recession.
Correct.
Because then it becomes buying season for us because it becomes more affordable, but you start to transfer wealth. And so what Trump is doing that's so brilliant is you have a regime that's really cutting government, which is the Republican Party, right? That's their foundation, smaller government.
No.
And so you're starting to cut expenses, right? Because there's two ways to make money as a business owner. There's making more money.
I'm deregulating.
Well, that's how you make more money, is deregulating. But the second way to make money that no one talks about is cutting expenses, right? Because it improves your profit.
Right.
So how does America make more money? We cut expenses.
And manpower is like the number one expenses on the per line item.
Exactly. Right? The biggest expense in my business is paying commissions to loan officers. So now we start to cut government. Now we start to deregulate, right? But in order for all of this to go into effect, right, we have to have a recession, right? The biggest example I give people is I'm fat, but I'm in better shape than people who have six packs. And it's proven people that have six packs can work out with me. They can't handle it. But the reason why I do an hour and a half, 3 hours worth of workouts every day is so that when I go home at 6 o'clock, I can pick up my daughter who is 50 pounds now with no problem. So I have to sacrifice an hour and a half in my day every day, or I have to invest into my day so that when I get home, I could pick up my daughter. And I have to keep adding weights because if she gets heavy, it's going to be harder to pick her up. I don't want to get to that point where I can't. So in order for the U.S. economy to thrive, we got to recede.
Right, right.
Another example would be you got to trim a bush, otherwise it grows out of control. But if you trim a bush, then it blossoms beautifully. And so all this going back to tie this all back into the votes, what Trump and Elon and the administration did is it's so brilliant, right? Why did they come on so strong?
Why?
I would say lack of reaction time from the other side. Like they wanted to get all of this done so they can get that momentum of everything moving forward.
Right. So they want to recede the economy. A recession before Joe Biden was described as 2 negative quarters of GDP.
They changed that.
But they changed it. But let's just go with the original term.
Right.
2 negative quarters of GDP. They recede the economy. The stock market crashes. And it's probably only going to crash like 25%. We saw this in 2022. There was a correction and then it exploded. But what's so brilliant is they'll do all this and they'll come in strong with a heavy hand. It'll be rough, probably till October, November, December of this year. And then what happens?
It
Takes
boom,
out and then
gangbusters.
fucking booms. And the distribution of wealth has already happened. The younger generations benefit the most. And yes, there's going to be some pissed off older people because they lost some of their retirement, of course. They lost some money in the stock market, of course. They sold when they should have held and just withstood the pain. But what you have in 2 years, the reason why it has to happen now, you have to have 6 months of pain now, because what happens in 2 years?
The midterms.
The midterms. So what do they need in the midterms?
They need to have all the momentum on their side, because if the recession is still occurring in the midterms, then you know the other side is going to start using that against them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the point is, by the midterms, the biggest voter turnout now, the 18 to 60, has now made money. Mortgage rates are down. The 10-year is down. Inflation is down. Everything is down.
So
They've now bought. They're now riding the wave up.
Yep.
And they don't want to stop momentum.
of course not.
And now the midterms come. The Republicans win the House. I know they got 2 more years to continue to do whatever they can. But if they don't do this right now,
Right.
and this starts in a year,
It might be too late.
it's too late, because then they'll go into the midterms with a recession, or the recession would have happened and they're barely getting out of it and it's too near.
Right. Yeah, the
People have short-term memory.
recency bias.
You know,
Right. I get it.
And like your generation, like how many people in your generation are like, yeah, I hope there's a recession?
There's a lot, bro. Why we want a reset?
Exactly. Our generation's the same. We're like, yeah, we're cool. Like, bring on the recession. We're wanting it. It's the older, people in the position of power right now that don't want the recession, because then they have the most to lose. But this is the only way that wealth gets distributed.
Right.
And so that's a long-winded answer to that's, in my opinion, what's happening in the economy.
Interesting. So how come we haven't had the Epstein files drop yet?
Because Bill Clinton probably is
Part of that group.
the Clinton Foundation hit up Patel and said, Cash Patel, and said, hey, if my name gets out there, you're going to accidentally commit suicide too.
Oh.
We don't fuck with the Clintons.
Trump did it and he won, so.
Yeah, but they tried to kill him.
yeah, a couple times.
Oh, tried.
right.
Yeah. The Epstein list, when it comes out, Here's what I text this to a friend this morning because they posted about the Epstein list. I go, evil has to prevail every time to win. Good only has to win once. Because when good wins once, then it overcomes years of evil. And I think with the Epstein list, you're seeing the end of evil's winning. And now good only needs to win once. And once they see all of the pedophiles and all those fuckers that are in power, you think about a person was worth $250 million or $1 billion, and they're in a high position of government. They fucking have a wife. They have a mistress. It's a woman. Nancy Pelosi's married to some cuck, and she's fucking the pool boy. And these people have everything that they want. So once you have cars, once you have houses, once you have food, like, your house can only get so much prettier. Your car can only get so much faster. Your spouse can only get bigger tits for so long. So what do?
You start seeking that undesirable stuff.
Yeah, which is wild. You start seeking, well, what's going to make me feel more powerful, right? Because there's nothing else. What, are they going to get a ticket and fight it in court?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's power. They have a McLaren. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that since they have everything, life gets boring to them. So they want another general something that's gonna get them excited. So then that's when they start doing
Dude, and
naughty things.
they're in the locker room with their boys, and the guy's saying, dude, I went to this island and fucking they had all these, whatever it was. And the guy's like, oh, I haven't seen him smile in a long time. Right now, he's real ecstatic. Yeah, well, maybe we need to do that. And that's unfortunate because those people lost their will. They lost their will to live.
Correct, yeah.
I mean, it's going to be crazy. I think what they find out is it's all tied. Diddy, Epstein, fucking R. Kelly, like, it's all tied.
I mean, right now, all it's going to take is like one little thread, and maybe the Epstein list is that thread, but it's going to get pulled. And like you said, it's going to unravel this chain. And with the internet and everything else now on social media, like, that's why I think this election went the way it did. But that it's going to be unstoppable. And all these older politicians, regardless of what side, if they're freaking doing something, like, that shit's going to be exposed.
You don't think that the push towards transgender and pedophilia and like the sexual acts that are being allowed to be committed by people, you don't think this is brainwashing by these politicians so that if they ever get caught, they're not in trouble?
They're trying to normalize it.
And then it's like, well, yeah, Bill Clinton fucked a 12-year-old. Well, fucking, it's normalized because he identified as a fucking 13-year-old at the time. Right? Like, this is all brainwashing so that those people in position of power can normalize their behavior. And then if they ever were to get caught, well, the whole world is fucking gay. All the girls are on OnlyFans. Why would they judge us? It's all a game to control the masses. But they're all getting caught now. They're all getting caught up. They're all caught slipping. They took it too far. And it's time for us to rise up because this is an opportunity of a lifetime for us. There's been revolutions. I think we had the Industrial Revolution. I don't think we had the Industrial Revolution, and it created massive amounts of wealth. They had the dot-com explosion, but they had the dot-com bubble. We're in an AI revolution right now, but I think we're in an information revolution more than anything. And that's why all of this shit's coming out. But this is the opportunity of a lifetime for us to take advantage of the transfer of wealth, to invest, and to really create a great America again, where the 25-year-old guy like yourself can afford a house with a family, where women can stay home with the kids if they wanted to. This is the moment where America gets to be America again and not a fucking third world country. Right? This is our opportunity to take back what's been taken from us.
Hell yeah. Bring back the American dream.
Boom.